You don't want to do something you don't have to do it. You have to have the conviction and the confidence to say, I don't want to do this. After all the reasons that I decided to start my own business, one of the advantages is that you can do what you want to do. And with all the noise, it gets to this point where people are just in a spin cycle of like, I don't know what I want to do. I should do ads. I should do SEO. I should do a website. I should do organic. I should do podcasts. Like, that's just in the marketing space. But sales is the same way. Operations is the same way. Finance is the same way. Every single spot, there is just so much information. And the reason that you became a founder is to build something that you want.
Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. I got my man Daniel in the house. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So I've been changing it up lately. Instead of talking about who you are, what you do, that stuff doesn't matter. What are you currently obsessed with when it comes to business right now?
Yeah, I think I'm currently obsessed with just the changing climate of business and how different it is. Obviously, with AI changing a lot. But another thing I've been thinking about a lot is really just the uh, how influential government is to business. I think we like to think of the US as a very capitalist country, and in many ways it is, but even that is changing. And you're seeing the government play an increasing role in business and how business actually wins and loses. And we're just really at an inflection point. Like, we haven't seen this level of intervention by the government. And I don't want to get too political here, but we haven't seen this level since the New Deal. And so just as the government, I think, wrestles with new technology and new business and what really big business looks like, we're sort of in that spot where government will just be part of you as a business owner and help you, and will ultimately decide sometimes whether you win or lose, or at least make it easier or harder.
Well, it's interesting, right? And I don't think about this on a day-to-day basis, but I've watched The Big Short many times, and I studied a bunch of other things, right? And if you really look at it, like during these collapses or 2008 or whatever, like that's when the government stood in and had to subsidize. But what they also did is bought big chunks of mini businesses. So, I mean, in essence, it's something that nobody ever talks about. Like, the government is in business, vice versa, right? Like the airlines, the car dealerships, the Fannie Mae's, stuff like that. It's really nobody ever talks about it.
Yeah, and I think it's no one talks about it because they don't quite understand it. And if you look at in China, there is a lot of ownership by the government, just flat out ownership, and the Chinese government has stakes in every private company and has the ability to access the data of every private company. But here in the U.S. and just here in the West in general, it is a little bit different, and I don't think it's well understood that the government does play an impactful role. If you look at defense tech and things like that, there has always been a government involvement. You've always had government contracts that are handed out by the government, right? And so that's always been there. But now you're seeing questions about like AI, right? And this happened after the 2016 election, when a lot of the big tech companies were hauled in front of Congress, and Zuckerberg had to say he was sorry about all the things that happened on Facebook. We haven't really seen that before. And I think if you look in history, we're at an inflection point similar to the turn of the 20th century. And if you looked at around that time, there was these large companies that were running with very little regulation that had essentially been driven out of the Civil War, and these companies had gotten bigger and bigger, and the North especially had really invested in industrialization, and these businesses got so big, things like Standard Oil, U.S. Steel, other companies like that. And so for the longest time, there was this, the American people were okay with it. And there was sort of like, this is good for everyone, the rising tide lift all boats, that kind of thinking. And even though the workplace conditions were bad, people weren't getting paid a lot. And at some point, it kind of turned where people were like, I'm now upset that there is this idea of a few have so much money and we don't have enough. And so that's what, going into Teddy Roosevelt and trust busting, and even a lot of trust busting during Taft, this really kind of changed the way the government and the business community worked with each other. And so if you look at today, I think there's a lot of similarities. These huge tech companies have essentially had sort of gone unchecked for a long time, and they're almost encouraged by the government, with a lot of state governments, giving tax breaks. And, here in Austin, Round Rock gave Dell a huge tax break to go and move their headquarters to Round Rock. And that still happens to some extent. However, what you're seeing now is the American people are starting to wonder, hey, is this really good for us? And so now we're sort of at an inflection point where not just the large companies, but the smaller companies who are in industry, who are in business, now have to answer also to the people for kind of what they're doing. And that's a uncomfortable spot for a business owner who's starting a company, has new technology, wants to build something cool. It's different to have to go work with the government. And, used to be you just be heads down in your business and you're just going to go create your business. And if you have a really good idea, then hopefully it'll rise to the top. And there's all these, ways to get investment and all these things, but that's different now. Now, public affairs, the way you interact with the people at large is the way you win, and is sort of the new marketing, with everything, with the internet, with social media. It is so easy to find information about small businesses, right? All you have to do is, if you say something controversial online, now they can find your Google listing, right? And they can find your address. That used to not be the case. And so now, instead of just looking at, hey, we're going to do marketing and we're going to talk to a specific set of people, you have to at least be ready to talk to everyone and be able to work with the government. And if you're not, you're really behind the times. And it really is a different way of looking at things, but it's just kind of where we're at.
And I think what's interesting, right? And I tell people all the time, I'm gonna not jump off topic, but just, I coach a lot of small business owners who want to still do their taxes or their payrolls. And I'm like, do you know that, like, the rules, the laws change every, year? How are you going to run your business and your employees and keep up with this stuff? That's when getting, seasoned professionals in, that this is their job, right? And I feel the same way about AI. How does a small business owner even learn for 1 second, besides past using ChatGPT, how to even work? They got 90 other things going on, right? This is just where we are now. And so the anxiety of said business owner, I think, is at an all-time high because they always feel like they're behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this goes back to your macroeconomics 101 class in college, but the idea of comparative advantage, right? And as a business owner, there is this desire, generally business owners, not all, but I would say 99% are kind of control freaks. The reason that they started a business in the first place is they wanted to control everything. And they're like, hey, you know what? This company I work for, they're all stupid. Like, I'm going to go do my own thing. And they want to control that, which is in some ways admirable. And whether it's good or bad, honestly, it doesn't matter. That's, just where you're at. And so there is this idea of, hey, I want to be an expert on everything, and everything that can touch my business, everything that will affect my bottom line, I should own. However, that's just unrealistic, right? And if you're going to go, we had a client recently who was asked to testify in front of Congress. It wasn't a hostile hearing or anything like that. But they asked her and they said, hey, like, we want you to go talk about AI to the House Judiciary Committee. It's like, okay, great. That's a new scenario. And we were able to help her and say, hey, look, like, you're really good. You are a world-class expert on AI and machine learning and how to build an incredible platform that disrupts cybercrime. But what you don't know is the disposition of the chairman of the subcommittee on federal surveillance and crime, right? Or the ranking member. You don't know what they're thinking. You don't know why they're going to be asking these questions. You don't know what points they're going to be making and how to play ball with them. And you also don't know how to interact with a government, like with treasury or justice or the FBI or anyone who comes in. And this is a very specific example. But we're just humans. We can't know everything. And so that's where, even the community aspect, right? Like that's where you build a community of founders that is so important, because you really can have all your bases covered. And if you are going to be successful as a business owner, it's one of the most lonely jobs there is. You have to be in community with other people who will help you, right? And being in community could be as easy as, hey, I need to go out with my boys and watch a football game. Or it could also be, hey, I have know nothing about this weird thing, like the government, for example, and I need to bring in professional help. And that all needs to be done through the lens of community and being humble enough to understand that you don't know everything.
No, and I think one of the things that's interesting is that somebody recently pointed out to me, this is different but the same. When I first started personal development, especially when I got sober, I definitely thought I knew everything.
Yeah.
It showed through a little bit, and I would say life has kind of humbled me down a little bit to be kind of what my mantra is in life is curiosity, right? And obviously I'm a coach. I ask a lot of questions, but I really have thrived the last couple months of getting into rooms with people that know more than me, and it's amazing what it's done for me. I've been teaching myself VC. I've been teaching myself private equity, like just having breakfast and lunch and with these guys, and there's something to be said, right? And I'm not to like beat a dead horse with real estate people, but I feel like real estate people only hang out with real estate people, you know? And so there is something to be said to get into rooms that maybe you don't understand everything.
And part of that curiosity too, I think is it is the, yes, I want to learn, and yeah, I want to just be a sponge and talk to people who are smarter than I am. But also there's sort of that base level of knowledge that you kind of need to have a discussion. It's a little bit
Mm.
like playing golf, right? It's if you want to start playing golf just because you want to go hang out with your friends and not embarrass yourself, there is that base level of, hey, you need to be able to know the rules so you don't kill someone. You also need to know enough about golf not to be in the woods every single shot. But if you can shoot 100, you'll be okay, right? And there's that base level, and to even to a point where you can go hang out with someone who's shooting 70, as long as you're playing quick enough, as long as you're not throwing your clubs and making a scene. People generally want to go play with you. It'll be a fun time. So I think it's similar to business. Is if there is something that you want to get into, like you said, you're doing your research on what it is to be a VC, and or what it is to be in these different sectors. And I do think that's really important, where sometimes I remember when I graduated college. I'll give you this example. So I graduated college from George Washington University, and I was standing there right behind the stage, and it's a really cool stage, just right in front of the Washington Monument. So I was in between the stage and the Washington Monument, just kind of looking up at the Washington Monument, and my initial thought was just overwhelming sadness. And the reason was because I was like, man, there are so many industries that I would love to go and get into and learn more about, but I won't, because I'm going to have a job in a different industry. And turns out throughout my career, I've actually gotten to work in many different industries, which has actually been really cool. I've been really blessed to do that. But at the same time, um, that there is sort of that, like, I don't have to do this for my job, but I'm still interested enough to learn something about it. And that curiosity can take you so far, right? And that is really attractive to people who are like, hey, this person's not just trying to blow smoke. They're actually really trying to learn and to understand the people that they're talking to. And so, I don't know a ton about real estate, but I should probably learn more. Right. So I can have a conversation with someone who's in the real estate. And for that real estate person, this might be the first time they haven't talked to a non real estate person. They're like, oh, wow, this is a cool scenario. And so, in terms of building that community, I think you're 100% right. That curiosity is just so important to your base level of knowledge.
And I think one of the things that's interesting, right, is I think that, and not so much anymore per se, but it's amazing how many adults I meet that haven't read a book since high school, and
Yeah.
it's like, and that's a fine. If you listen to a lot of podcasts, like, cool, whatever. But like, I can't help but be intrigued by certain things that come across I spent years in health insurance. I spent years in blockchain. I spent years, that's one of the things that I'm obsessed with as a consultant, is that I get to kind of dip my toe in many different industries. Like literally, I ran into a guy at a conference who owned 9 companies, and he bought a 100-year-old company, and that company does the flagpole for the White House.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
it's just like so ridiculous. And we were sitting
Yeah.
there, and he goes, "Yeah," he's like, "Everything in front of you is a business when you look through it that lens." And like, I just love that kind of framework, that mindset to like understand that, like, you know, every like in Cocktails and Dreams in the movie, he's like, somebody made millions from the little plastic at the end of your shoelace,
Right.
like,
Right. Well, it's so good too, because I mean, that really is one of the things I've realized is, there are the big flashy industries to get in. And you look at last week, Apple just had their announcement, and they announced that the new iPhones, and people were, had all this feedback on, oh, these iPhones are good, they're bad, they're whatever. But Apple is a very flashy industry. But to your point, there are so many other industries that people don't really think about. And unless you're a billionaire that everyone knows, they might look at you weird, and they might say, "Hey, like how, like you're in, uh, you're in whatever industry." It actually reminds me of I forget the guy's name, but the owner of Pizza Hut, or not Pizza Hut, Little Caesars, the owner of Little Caesars. He started Little Caesars and built a really successful business, and then I believe bought the Detroit Tigers, and also maybe even the Pistons. And he was such a beloved owner. I think his name was Mike Ilitch, and he was such a beloved owner, and he transformed the lives of so many people, not only through Little Caesars, but also in owning the Detroit Tigers and bringing joy and actually a good team to a city that had gone through a lot, right? And the people who were in the organization loved him, and the community loved him. And he was able to do that through pizza, right? Through $5 hot and ready pizzas, right? And I do think, especially here in Austin, where there's this very much kind of a comparison, like flashiness of, oh, you're in this technology, oh, I'm in that technology. When I was in DC, it was, where do you work, right? What's the job you're working at, and all of that. It's somewhat important, but to your point, like, you can have a huge impact. You can go achieve more than you ever thought you could if you just really do well at a very specific niche that maybe no one would have ever thought about before. And
Mhm.
that's what's really exciting. And I think that that's really, the base, the foundation of a lot of business around the world, is doing the things that aren't sexy and making an impact in people's lives, both as a consumer and as a business owner, and as someone who has employees who they need to work for you.
I met a father and son when I was up in the Northeast in Ohio. Um, Dad started in, mold remediation, water remediation. Son came on board after he got out of college. 6 years later, they had 15 locations. They employed 400 people, and they're going to do 50 million this year.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm obsessed with stories like that, they do storm relief, they do, remediation. And we went and walked their operation. It was so dialed in. But what was even more exciting is every person that we met was just the nicest, kindest, gentlest person. And when I met the owner, I said, I could have already told you who you were because none of these people would have stayed with an owner that was terrible. Like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? And he's like, how'd you know that? I'm like, I just know, like, that you were going to be amazing just like they were. And it was just really cool to see. And I'm obsessed with like small stories like that. So, to transition, and Thrive Side and what y'all do and kind of where you're going, you see all these businesses over and over again. Is there a common, you work a lot on messaging, you work a lot of understanding their vision. Is there a lot of common things that you see when a business comes across your table?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that comes to mind is the disconnect between a customer and the founder, or the business owner. Uh, and this generally happens with smaller companies, but can actually happen with really large companies. We were looking at a large company yesterday and just astounded by, honestly, how bad the website was. And the website load speed was really bad. And, things like that, that you can make an argument as to how much that matters. But really, what that is saying to us is that, yeah, you can be making $700 million and still really not connect with your customer, not understand your customer. And so I think what happens is you have a founder or founders who want to build something really cool, and they have a vision, and they go bring their vision to market, and they start selling it, and they really struggle. And I talked with a founder 2 weeks ago, and she was like, I know exactly what I do in my head, I just can't get that out. Right. And that is so true across so many different businesses where they have that in their head and they're just like, I don't know how to describe that. And so, that's really one of the cool things that we get to do at ThriveSide is to help them articulate what makes them uniquely better and really what is the value that they're providing to the customers. And if you're able to do that, then and you're able to connect that dot, it's almost like a light bulb goes off. You're like, oh my gosh, like there is now so much more synergy between my customers and my business, and we're selling out, and there is this excitement of, hey, I understand my customers, because at the end of the day, like, what do humans want to be like on their base level? They want to be fully known and fully loved. And the more that you can get that way as a business owner, saying, hey, I understand that you as a customer, whether it's B2C, B2B, doesn't matter, but I understand that there is something that you need, and that I will provide this value to you. And that is so impactful. And there is that feeling that's almost like supernatural of like, yes, like I'm buzzing because I have this thing. And when we're able to do that with customers, it's really exciting. So that's like the first thing that really comes to mind. It's that, at the end of the day, the customer business relationship is really hard to do, but when you get it right, it's magical.
One of my favorite things to tell every founder owner that I've met ever, and it's a simple question: when was the last time that you experienced your business?
Mm,
When was the last time that you, as a customer, experienced the calls, the emails, the follow ups? How was it? And I guarantee you, it's not what you think it is, right? And I try to tell people all the time, you're getting this like 2 sentence review and it's 5 stars, and you think your business is fine. Like,
right,
that's not
right.
enough data to understand. And I'm not talking about secret shoppers. I'm like, literally call a friend, go, hey, I'll pay for your whatever, but just call my thing and then get their feedback. And I
Yeah,
guarantee you, most, I'd say 90%, 95% of business owners haven't done that in years.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's really easy to, I think, as a business owner, as you start getting bigger, to start focusing on other things, right? And now you have bigger operational budgets. You're talking about running payroll and doing hires and all sorts of other pieces that, yeah, they're really important, but not to say that the customer becomes an afterthought. And I think there's a lot of lip service paid to the customer. I think the reality is that it does become almost a dollars and cents. It's really easy to just think of your customers as, hey, this is the funnel. They go in the funnel, they come out the other end, and there's dollar signs. The dollar signs get distributed here and here and here, and then this just goes around, and then we're going to do it again, or we're going to iterate, and all these things. And at the end of the day, that idea of what happened for that person or that company to go through that funnel, it's hard to think of in terms of when you're running a business. And the reality is you're probably not, like you said. And so I completely agree. Have you, yeah, like for a business owner, have you experienced your own stuff? And that's been something that we've been working on too, is, we work on, we work on helping businesses to articulate themselves and bring themselves to market and bring themselves to the right customers. And at the same time, it's something that we need to do. And people ask us, like, hey, when was the last time that you have gone through your own process? And it's something that I think, do a really good job of like, we are constantly using our own framework and our own messaging. But to that point, we have to bring on other people. We have to bring on fresh talent because we've been looking at it for so long and we just believe our own bullshit to some degree.
Hmm.
And that's why you need people to come in and kind of like force you to look. And like you said, what you said was interesting. It's not, hey, you call and change your number as the CEO. It's you have your buddy call. And then your buddy is going to say, hey, this is how I experience it. And you're like, oh my gosh, like I've never seen that before. Right. And so I really like that. What you said, it's 100% right. Like you have to be constantly bringing yourself back to what you're actually selling.
100%. I think one of the things that's interesting, right? And just do this. Everybody's listening. Do this the next time you're in. Like, go to a coffee shop, but like stop for a second and like look at certain things, and aesthetically, they're not as clean as you think. I think that we move very quickly, right? And I use a coffee shop because people do it every day, right? But when you open your ears up, right? And I think business owners, they say, oh, the business owner doesn't care, right? They're not paying. No, no, no. The business owner is tired. Like he's tired, and that's just become low on the totem pole, right? But to your previous point is that I have seen the inside of many 10, 20, 30, $50 million companies. And let me tell you, every 1,500,000, you think they got it together? No, that's just a pure chaos mess that happens to make a ton of money, right? And
Yeah.
so this is my, hope to you is that you're going to be fine. So here's what I think is getting harder and harder, and this is where I want to finish on. We are so inundated with social media and AI and everything. I think that what's happening is people are getting way too much advice on what they're messaging, their website. Should I do a website? Should I do ads? There's just so much noise. That's 90% of the time I entertain a client. I just have to quiet the noise out and get them to trust themselves again. What have we lost when it comes to business owners or just personal brands? Understanding our own message because we're hearing too much outside noise.
We've lost confidence. I
Mm.
truly think we have lost confidence for founders. It's, what you see. And so my parents connected me with one of their friends, and she was a mom. Her husband worked for a tech company in San Francisco, and she built jewelry. And she was incredible, custom jewelry. She did a lot of things, and all she was hoping to do was sell 3 to 4 pieces a month, and that's all she wanted to do. And it was beautiful. The prices weren't crazy. And she came to us, and she was really struggling. She didn't know what she wanted to do. She still wanted to be a mom. She wanted to spend time with her kids, and then when her kids were at school, she wanted to just go uh, make jewelry. And she came to us and she said, I spent $5,000 online for a how to do your jewelry company. And in that, they said, I need to be really active on Instagram. She's like, I hate Instagram, but apparently I need to do it. And the number one impactful thing she even said this many times afterwards. She said this to my parents. She said, they said, you don't need to do Instagram if you don't want to. And that's what we said. If you don't want to do something, you don't have to do it. You have to have the conviction and the confidence to say, I don't want to do this. after all the reasons that I decided to start my own business, one of the advantages is that you can do what you want to do. And with all the noise, it gets to this point where people are just in a spin cycle of like, I don't know what I want to do. I should do ads. I should do SEO. I should do a website. I should do organic. I should do podcasts. Like, that's just in the marketing space. But sales is the same way. Operations is the same way. Finance is the same way. Every single spot, there is just so much information. And the reason that you became a founder is to build something that you want, right? And to build your thing. And if you're not doing that, you are missing the point. And so, yes, there is good advice that you can have. And I just talked a lot about community, and that is important. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the confidence to create the thing that you want, then you're lost. And you need to get back to that as a business owner and say, look, I don't care. I hate TikTok and I'm never going to be on TikTok. And I'm going to build my business around not going on TikTok. Or, hey, this new thing, another thing she was saying, and she said, hey, maybe I need to create pieces and wholesale them through another website, but they're not custom. But her love was creating custom jewelry that told a story. And so this was completely antithetical to what she wanted to do as a business owner. And so again, like going back, you have to have the confidence of, I'm going to build something that I am proud of, that I can go tell my kids, my grandkids, my friends, whoever it is, that I built this and I'm really damn proud of what I built. And all my blood, sweat, and tears that I've gone through, it was okay. And I would say this too, if you're a business owner and if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, you will feel much better if it doesn't work out because you believed in something and you stuck with it. And obviously there's times to pivot, but our tendency is not to go to standing by your thing. A lot of times are just like what you said, Austin, like there's so much information that people are pivoting all the time. It's pivot, 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 pivot. And you've lost what makes you uniquely better. And so I would just say, believe in the reason that you started your business. And if you don't remember that anymore, talk to your friends, talk to your community. They'll tell you. They know, right? Because you told it to them once and they haven't heard it for a while.
Absolutely amazing. I can't tell you, it's happened twice in the last 2 weeks, how many coaches tell me they hate social media, but how can I build a business? And I go, just don't be on social media.
Right.
And they're like, I don't understand. And I'm like, you go get in your community, referrals, organic. I don't run ads. People find me. Like, you nailed it. Everything that you said was so spot on, because we have officially lost 100% confidence in what we do and what we say in our message. And so then we try all these different things and then nothing happens, and then we're massively frustrated. And now we just enter a new cycle of going over and over and over again and over again.
And we call it research. And it's not research. It's just you're in the journey. It's not research. You don't need to hear more things. And like you said, I mean, even going back to what you were saying about books, it's read a book, not an Instagram video, right? Actually understand. You're going to make a pivot, understand why you're doing it, and really truly critically think and evaluate whether this makes sense or not. But yeah, I completely agree.
Awesome. And so if people want to hunt you down, they want to find you, how would they do that?
Yeah, find me LinkedIn, Daniel Perumal, Perumal, or hit me up. Business is thriveside.com or foundersbestfriend.com. You can read more about what we're doing. We're also going to be launching government affairs division soon, and that will be thrivesidegov.com. So keep a lookout for that. Love to chat and just have a fun conversation.
Awesome. Guys, if you like this episode, send it around to a friend, rate us and review us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Austin.
Thank you.